All right, everyone. So welcome to our first Active Leeds podcast. We've got the three fitness coordinators with us today. So we'll just do some brief introductions, seeing as this is our first one. Simon, I'll come to you first. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So you'll recognise Simon if you listened to our previous podcast before. He's been our regular sort of podcast as we've released those out. So that's our Simon. And then we've got Adele. Morning, Adele.
Morning.
Good morning. So some of you will recognise Adele from being in and around the city. You've worked at a few sites, haven't you, Adele? You're now one of our fitness coordinators.
Yes, just a couple of sites, yeah.
Just a couple. All right, fantastic. So we're going to sort of start off with that, and we're going to be hopefully talking and answering some of the questions that our lovely customers will be sending into them and helping them on their way with all things fitness and keeping moving and just generally being healthy, not just through lockdown, but hopefully through sort of life in general as we move through that. But as a good one to get us started, it is an atrocious day outside. Really kind of hard to exercise and get motivated. So Simon, have you got any help and advice for us? What have you been up to?
Yeah, well, it's about what you hit the nail on the head, really. We're being motivated, and I've heard, and I'm sure you guys have, and customers have, I've heard lots of people talking about the difference between this lockdown and lockdown one. And I personally think one of the biggest differences is the weather, as simple as it sounds. Because obviously guidance was as it was then, insofar as going out and doing exercise outdoors and being encouraged, obviously, around social distancing. But as you rightly say, the motivation to go out, I'm just looking out of the window now, and I'm sure you've seen a similar sight to me.
Yeah, it's not nice, is it?
No, it's very different to what it looked like last April. I think from lockdown, we had about 3 months, and I can't remember it raining at all, it fit really well. So, I mean, my first thing, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's just not beating yourself up about not wanting to go out and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely an element of you not letting one day of not doing something or not being motivated ruin your entire week, I think, isn't it? Or your entire month of how that's going to go.
Because you will, as you know, you'll have habitual exercises that will go out no matter what, in whatever conditions. And, that is not the norm, and don't judge yourself by that for me. We're going to talk about later, aren't we, alternatives to do indoors and things like that. And that's probably a little bit more around resistance work. But generally, there are other alternatives to do. But, as I said, the main point for me is just don't beat yourself up for not wanting to go out in the ice or the snow or the rain or the wind.
I think that's a sort of key point as well, is that there's, if it's certainly, I mean, rain's a different sort of matter, isn't it, kind of thing. If you're that way sort of wired up, you can just get the right clothing on and go out in the rain. But if it's icy, I think you're probably going to do more harm than good, or potentially just get injured trying to do something when realistically, if you left it a couple of days, you're not going to do anything detrimental in those sort of couple of days. And then you can just kind of get back on the wagon again as and when you've kind of got the motivation for it.
I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah. So just Adele, have you been finding it, Adele? Have you done anything different, would you say, over the past few weeks, or just been getting on with it?
Yeah, I was just say, following on what Simon said, I mean, I'd consider myself to be very active, and I hate being sat indoors. It absolutely drives me insane. But like he's just said, you have got to try and not feel guilty when you do that. So to be honest, in terms of doing stuff different, it's just been a case of spending more time with who I'm living with, doing board games and stuff like that, just to be doing something. So even steering away from activity and spending more time with who you actually live with and doing activities that maybe aren't about fitness, which would be different to what I'd normally do. Just trying to keep myself busy through that way, really.
So we're talking about mental gymnastics then, Adele. I like that.
There's definitely a big sort of mental approach there, isn't there?
Yeah. I'll tell you one thought. Sorry, Will, I was just going to say, I'll tell you one thought I had, certainly around your point about going out in the ice. And I was thinking, you know what, I don't want to be that guy that turns up at A&E when I didn't have to go out and do something. And I'm turning up at A&E and taking up a medical professional's time because I couldn't hang with just staying indoors and not going out running or something like that. So that's an underlying thought as well. And as you said about risk of injury and being that guy who ends up doing that, I just don't want that to be me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're still releasing plenty of content on our YouTube channel as well. Through Active Leeds, we've got those sort of virtual workouts and programs that are in there. So there is little bits of workouts that people can be getting on with, and I think it's finding the sort of time to do that as well. I think when you need the right sort of space to do it, which some people are lucky and blessed with a good bit of space, or they might have a garage, for example. But it's not like you can just get in your garden, as you say, like you could do last year and sort of do one of those workouts. You've kind of got to be a little bit more thoughtful of how and where you do it and structure your time wise, and not necessarily complete one. If you've started one and something gets in the way and stops you, then it's right. Okay, let's box that off. Let's move that on. And there's always a kind of another way to get it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're around time management, aren't you? You could look at even a short workout and practicalities of doing 30 minutes. You might think, well, it's only 30 minutes, but just to find 30 minutes uninterrupted can be quite challenging, as I'm sure a lot of people agree. So do that 30 minutes across the day. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I certainly like shorter sessions that are a bit more frequent.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I kind of try to structure my week as though it would be if we weren't in lockdown. So I'll choose specific activities that I'm going to do each day. And it tends to be, for me, if I don't get up and do it in the morning, I kind of won't do it. So like you said, I'll get up, and that after my coffee, obviously, that first half an hour is me doing some form of exercise. Like you said, even if it was only 20-30 minutes, it makes such a big difference at the start of the day. So it is important to structure that in, definitely.
Yeah, it can. I'm definitely a sort of morning exerciser, and very similar. If something sort of happens in the morning and I kind of don't get it done, I'm really sort of struggling then to structure my day to fit it in later on. But if I kind of just make that bit of extra effort, bit of extra time, and like I say, get it done, regardless of how long it might be, I think it really does kind of set yourself up for the rest of the day. And me personally, I mean, I know there's some people out there that would absolutely hate that idea and love training on an evening. And I think there's a big point of that as well. A lot of people are still working, either out at work or they're working from home, and getting home and just switching off and doing a little bit of exercise is actually, that relieves the kind of the need to reset the day.
I think it's a good point. Go on, Adele, sorry.
No, just going on a bit of a different topic, just with you, Will. Talk about, because obviously we've brought up sort of the difference between lockdown 1 and lockdown 3. And probably the biggest influencer now is with schools being closed, and obviously you've got kids, Will. So how do you sort of manage that? Doing your exercise with working from home and having your kids there as well. Because I suppose that's a big difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, planning. I mean, you're talking about the sort of mental workout that you've got doing board games. I've just been doing some maths and English with the kids, and that's a right mental workout, to be honest. Trying to get my brain going into that. Again, it's just a bit of planning. My partner goes out to work at sort of various points in the day, so it's just kind of finding that sort of right window of opportunity to get it done. Really, it's kind of looking for those sort of green lights. If you sort of plan, for me personally, it's just about sort of that military operation, planning my day. Right, I know this is going to happen at this time. This is happening at this time. Right here, I've got a window of 30 minutes to 45 minutes where I can get some exercise done. So that's the hard bit. I've done that bit, and then it's just thinking, right, what am I going to do? I bought a skipping rope just before Christmas, so that's been one of the sort of main things. Really, going back to can't really go out and run or get on a bike ride because of the weather's just not appropriate. So I'm in the garage with a skipping rope and doing a little bit of that, some bodyweight exercises, and that's certainly better than nothing and keeping it going. But yeah, it's all about the planning and the structure, I think.
How are you fixed with space with skipping, Will? I know you said obviously you've got a garage, but some people don't have. I mean, I don't have a garage. Is it sort of thing I could do in my living room with a little bit of clearance?
A little bit of clearance you could do. I'm probably working in about maybe a 6 by 6 meter space.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of like in front of me. To either side, it's quite narrow. So that kind of affects how I've had to modify maybe the technique of doing it. Not that I had a kind of skipping technique anyway. I've just found the space and done it. And then just the height wise, but I'd actually sort of quite surprised myself, really. I didn't need that much height. There's a light fitting like above my head, and I'm missing that quite comfortably. But yeah, it's certainly something you could do in your living room, finding a little bit of space, or just sort of structuring other things in as well. I noticed there was one that I found on the sort of stumbled across on the internet, and it was again just finding those sort of natural breaks in your day that kind of people have. So, for example, when they go make a cup of tea or a coffee, while the kettle's boiling, they might be doing some burpees, or every hour on the hour, they might do 10 squats, 10 burpees, 10 press ups, when they kind of naturally have a bit of a stretch and, kind of move away from whatever it is they're doing. And just finding those sort of natural breaks in the day to do something. And that, over the duration of a day, that is some workout time you've logged there. I think it doesn't all have to be in one sitting.
Yeah, I think that's what people find challenging is that one sitting. I think it can create a little bit of a monster when you're thinking about time. We're back to time management, aren't we? And obviously all different circumstances that people are under. But again, from a fitness perspective and getting your body to adapt, it really is just time accrued, is it not? Where it's the volume over the period of the day and then over the weeks, and obviously that builds up. It's not necessarily any one sort of given workout, if you like. And I think a lot of people sometimes lose that thought, and it makes it too difficult to manage. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
what are you like at
absolutely.
recording things, Adele? Like, you've spoken about, you're planning and getting things done. Do you kind of log and record what you've done?
Yeah, I do in a sense. Weight wise, I'm quite lucky that I've got a bit of a home gym set up. So I do have an app where I track sort of what I do in terms of reps, sets and volume. But in terms of like my weekly stuff, I just use my notes. So I'll just write out the day, Monday, Tuesday till the end of the week, and I'll just write down what I'm going to do on each day, and kind of follow that process at the end of each week. To be honest, at the moment, I just try and do similar to what I do if we weren't in lockdown. So I know normally I'd probably be teaching 4 or 5 times a week. So it might be 2 body pumps, 2 CX work. So I'll try and do that now, just so when I do go back into teaching, I don't feel too unconditioned, or basically I don't want to go back to teaching and feel absolutely icky within that first
blowing stood in front of their class. It's not good, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm supposed to be teaching the class. I don't want to be dying along with them. So trying to follow the process really. But I think it's just about your mindset, like I said, trying to motivate yourself to do things. Yeah, it's one of those. But I suppose, going back to the weather, obviously we've said that's a bit of a barrier, but I think the good thing about being in a third lockdown now is I think a lot of people would have already bought kit that they can now utilize. So I think if you flip it round, there might be people that are potentially more active than what they were in the first lockdown, because now they've gone out, they've bought pieces of kit that you can use for the home gym. They might have bought home spin bikes and stuff. So on the flip side, I suppose people could be more active that way compared to the first one.
Yeah. So
yeah, no.
Well,
as in general, we do get obviously customers coming to us with certain queries, and hopefully as time moves on, we'll be able to answer some of those on here to give you a bit more sort of detailed explanation as opposed to replying to an email. But one of the ones that we have had recently is exactly on that, and finding different kits. We've had a customer that's I think been doing body pump and want to be a little bit more creative in things that they can use in and around the house. So Del, you're one of our big, like you say, big body pump and CX instructors. Any advice on that?
Yeah, in terms of body pump, if you've got weights such as barbells, dumbbells or kettlebells, you can use those. But even household items, if you've just got tins, fill up cartons of milk, put a backpack on with some stuff in there just to fill it up for a little bit of extra load. CX works. You can buy a resistance band off Amazon for cheap enough. But even then, if you can't get a band, again, just any form of weight, or a lot of the stuff you can just do with your body weight. You don't even need any extra resistance, especially when it comes to your Les Mills, because it's all choreographed and it's all about the time under tension. You don't actually need a lot of load, as opposed to training in the gym. So you can do it with the bare minimum.
Yeah, I think certainly with we're talking sort of Les Mills there, and a few of the sort of latest releases I've noticed on their sort of on-demand app, they've been done during a global pandemic, so to speak, with countries in lockdown. So they've taken that into consideration as part of their teaching. They said if you've not got a barbell, you can use this, or you can, like you say, you can drop to body weight. And then yeah, you're not necessarily lumping a load of weight on a barbell like you would do in the gym. It's still very, very, relevant exercise and techniques that you can be doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just adapting it slightly to suit what you've got, I suppose.
Lovely stuff. Well, I think that should be just about us for our first podcast. We've covered a couple of big topics there. We've started talking about sort of pre-planning exercise and getting in that mindset to exercise. So hopefully that's given some of our customers a few ideas and maybe a little bit of motivation of how to keep moving and get things going. And just remembering those key points that we've covered there. It doesn't have to be, every workout doesn't have to be an hour-long grueling sweat fest of a workout. You can chip away at your day little and often and just keeping moving. And as you mentioned there, Adele, earlier, that mental stimulation of doing a bit of board games or just keeping yourself ticking over all helps and all kind of links into your general fitness. So with that said and done, Simon, Adele, thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you.
And hopefully this goes down well. Please leave your comments and feedback and any questions you've got for us. And if we make it to podcast number 2, we'll answer those there and then. All right, guys. Thank you.